Hello, everyone, and welcome to another conversation with Future of Work in Mind. I'm your host, Rachel Cossar, and I am beyond excited to welcome today's guest. This is a conversation that I have been wanting to share with you, our audience, for a while. Alex Thatcher and I have been chatting big picture, future of work, like really hashing out the intersection between humans and technology and AI for a while. So without further ado, I would love to introduce Alex Thatcher.
Hey, good morning, Rachel. Good to see you again.
Good to see you too. Welcome to the show. Please share a little bit about yourself, what you're excited about, what you're spending your time on these days.
Well, my team develops experiences for AI PCs. And what's exciting about AI PCs is, every year PCs have gotten a little bit faster. They've gotten some new features. But now we have this technology that enables us to do things that you just couldn't do before. And when we talk about AI, you hear about, job replacement or, efficiency. But when we talk about AI on our team, the words that we use is growth and fulfillment. And we think about AI in terms of how can we eliminate the tedious out of people's lives. So first of all, they can do the work that really matters to them. But second, also, how can you use AI to make yourself better? How do you use AI to help yourself grow? And virtual sapiens has been a big part of that conversation. It's definitely when I talk to a lot of customers and I give them a lot of demos and I show them what the new stuff can do. And virtual sapiens is almost always a part of that conversation because it's such a wonderful example of not just a tool, but like something that really helps you get better at doing what you need to do every day.
Love that. Well, I mean, couldn't agree more, right? Getting into our first questions here, because what you teed up just so beautifully brings us here. But I'd love to hear your insights broadly or specifically in terms of, how are people being empowered? We live in such a different world of work, right? Hybrid, virtual, in person. It's like everything. And how are people being empowered to work more efficiently or more humanly through technologies like the ones you're developing at HP?
Well, one of the things that I think you're very familiar as a speaking coach is that people have bad habits they've lived with their entire lives.
Yeah.
And they're habits that are developed out of necessity. And you just assume, you grow up in this box and, well, I just assume that that I'm always going to start with writer's block, or I assume that I'm always going to have to do this tedious level. I assume I'm going to have to read every 9-page email that comes into my box. And it's just not that true. You don't have to do that anymore. And the first thing is, how can you use AI to eliminate the tedious out of your life? My dad used to say, hey, Alex, if you're working on a home improvement project and it feels like it's really hard, like you're really struggling with it, there's probably a tool at Home Depot that makes that a lot easier. And I think the same is true about the tools for AI that we use as well. I think one of the things, though, that we've seen that I'd like to just take a minute, talk about what's new about an AI PC that enables this growth and capability and what's changed in the world, which is, I think everybody knows what a CPU is and a graphics processing unit. But now what's different about an AI PC is it has this new element called a neural processing unit. And why does that matter? It does a couple of things. First of all, it's power efficient. Like any work that you can move to it gives you great battery life. Great, fantastic. But the thing that's really matters about it is that with a tool like that, you can start to move libraries to your PC that does amazing things. Like we think about AI, we think about chatbots, but AI is way more than that. We have tools that can recognize your face, learns your language, translates, can see how you use your hands and your gesture. And case in point with that, you now have a companion that's private on your machine that you can trust, that can give you real-time feedback and help you do things better. Virtual Sapiens is a great example of that, as it gives you feedback about touching your face, like I just did, my constant habit that I'm trying to break. But there's other things as well about, for example, they're incredible tools for salespeople now that listen to the conversation with you and recognize objections and help you understand when you've lost the room. I think it's a struggle for every executive, for everybody who works everywhere, about reading the room and getting the most out of it. And tools that help you augment your perception and help keep you in the moment and see what's going on are extremely powerful. These are things, and as it goes on, you get those reflections, you build that muscle, right? You get stronger.
Yep.
as you go. And so definitely
Mm.
as we work with our salespeople and we think very much about how we change their jobs to be done every day, thinking about how they communicate, how they're more efficient. This is where our minds are in terms of how we're trying to develop our teams.
Right. Totally. It's something you said earlier is interesting to me in that, you know, your father is like, oh, like you're trying to do this project, these things that you're doing manually or
Mhm.
laboriously, like can be made more efficient by getting a tool. It's always so interesting to me to think back to like recent years or even beyond that, to those moments when people realize, oh, there's something that exists that I can
Mhm.
leverage, that's at my fingertips, that's already on my device, right? That
Right.
can make my life easier, more seamless, more efficient, right? And so that then I can spend the time doing the creative work or doing the stuff that I really love, right? That you can't just like offload.
Yeah, it's so true. I'll give you a classic example of like our jobs have changed radically. And when I say our jobs, I mean very specifically me and my team that function as product managers has changed radically in the last
Yeah.
18 months. And I'll give you a couple of quick examples on that. First of all, it used to be that we would have a review, right, with our president and talk about our product roadmaps and our strategies. And these meetings are typically slides that can be like 80 pages long, right?
Mm,
And you get in and you spend the session and you're slide whipping. We don't work that way anymore, not even remotely.
mm.
Because before we even get in that meeting, that whole deck has already been loaded into a tool that we include on our AI PCs called AI Companion. We know that our president has already asked and had a long conversation with everything that we're going to present. He's already gotten a list of better questions. Likewise, on our side, we've loaded it into the same tool and are saying, given our earnings announcement and everything else that's happened, what do we think we're going to get asked when we step
Yeah.
into the room? You know, it gives us both a chance to practice. And there's two results that come of that. First of all, when we get into the room, it's no longer a series of just whipping through slides. We get past the formalities really quickly to get to deep, meaningful conversations. And we get to work the problems. The time is much more effective in how we're spending that. But the second thing is that the work is more meaningful.
Yeah.
It is way more meaningful to come in and have those conversations and have that engagement with your leadership than whipping slides. And that just motivates and adds energy to everybody in the squad, everywhere in the organization.
Totally. Yeah. No, that's such a great visualization and like applied concept of how some of these things can empower that like more human, more impactful dynamic at work. That's awesome. So you touched a little bit on this, right? This the difference between on-device computing and AI processing with those MPUs.
Yeah.
One thing specific to this question that I'd like to go a little deeper on is, you know, I think maybe people have been hearing about the ability to like buy your own little piece of hardware and then you can run an
Mhm.
LLM on that. So how is what HP is doing with the MPUs different from like having to buy a separate piece of hardware to do that? Like what's going on with that?
You know, when we look at AI in the future, we say that AI will be hybrid. And when we think of a hybrid, we think of like, oh, you sometimes you work from the office, work from home. What we mean when we say hybrid is some AI is best done in the cloud,
Yeah.
but some AI is best done locally. And often with these large language
Yeah.
models and tools, it's best done in the cloud where it can scale, where you can do things with it. But some things are really best done locally on your PC when you can bring these models over. Uh, there are responses that you can use and train to get onto it. And also, there are models that aren't just about language models that do other things like create images and co-create with you. I think the number one thing that we hear from our customers and from our early adopters of these tools is privacy. There are industries like healthcare, finance, or even just people want to protect this stuff where you don't want to load that stuff into the cloud.
Yeah.
It can be trade. So you got a tool like AI Companion. You can use it in a protected way where you know your data is not going to be trained on.
Mhm.
You know that because you've provided that tool to your teams, they're not running off and pushing data someplace it shouldn't go,
Yeah.
which is important. But the other benefit of having AI locally on these new classes of PCs is that you really can do some things that you just couldn't do before. AI can do a lot of amazing things. You can ask it to create an image or sculpt something for you, but it can't read your mind. And
Yeah.
so you could say, I want to, here's a way that we use it. This is really powerful with our product managers, which is we storyboard all the time. when we're thinking of the new product experience, we want to make it visual to communicate how we're working. Now, the way we used to work is we would have to beg for resources. And often, like, it was not uncommon when we'd interview, we'd say, oh, and by the way, just, do you have any cartooning skills? Like, can you draw, right? We needed this talent. Now, we use AI to do a lot of that storyboarding and imaging. And the part of having it locally is that I can tell it what I want, but we have tools where I can actually sketch an image or a scene. And as I sketch it, I'm adding more context to the AI, which in real time keeps re-rendering it very quickly to give me photorealistic or cartoon images of what I'm doing. So now we are very visual in how we communicate our experiences and how we explore ideas. And we're doing it without begging our ID teams and specialty resources or hiring cartoonists to show it. Everybody has the ability to be creative.
Right.
And deliver this visual communication.
Right. Yeah. And there's like the latency component, the speed of it is improved. And then there's also, and this was really important for us, as you know, at Virtual Sapiens, but like the savings in terms of cost and resources from like a processing perspective, right? Like,
yeah, it's huge. And in terms of something like your guys' story is amazing. And the fact that you're able to get off the ground without huge sums of venture capital that you're giving to cloud providers.
Yeah, right.
Experiences is incredible. We're hearing that from a lot of other ISVs as well, who want to deliver generative AI experiences, either for image editing or text creation, or just to simplify, the workflows and create, take the friction out of the process. But then they either have to charge their customers a huge amount of money, like try to do a service upgrade, or, they have to, they have the latency. Having it on the device, having libraries on the device that they can just call, it enables them to deliver this and add more value without adding a lot of cost. And they can develop it faster, because one of the things that's coming with Copilot Plus PCs, which is a kind of the Microsoft standard next gen PC term, is there is a set of libraries that's on that device that ISVs, that software providers can call just to add AI into their applications very quickly. And the reason that I raise that is for anyone who's an IT manager or thinking about their technical strategy or how they develop their teams, it's important to understand there is a very fast sea change in the software providers out there to add AI to their solutions.
Right. It's
going to have an increasing dependency on this endpoint to get the full benefit of it.
Yeah.
And so, as we say, this is not 2025 is not the year where there's the 10% improvement. There is a step function difference in both performance, but also in thinking about how people get things done.
Right. Yeah, that's so fascinating. It's so interesting to think about how much more power that provides to the user in terms of. I love like the step change function visualization, because it really is so compelling. And I think the other thing that's been very daunting about AI for everyone, like innovators, entrepreneurs, founders, general professionals, is like it has the perception of just being so resource intensive, so cost prohibitive. Like to do something really creative and whatever, it would cost a lot of money to like R&D that, and I think technology has this like beautiful deflationary energy, and this is such a fantastic example of that.
Right? Yeah, I totally agree. And I think the other thing that comes hand in hand with that again is trust and privacy, right? Yeah. Everybody wants to play in the sandbox and explore and figure out new experiences, but nobody wants to push their customers' data to a cloud they don't know or don't understand or take those kinds of risk. And so having those local capabilities where you can give your customers trust and build, on this equity that we all want is incredibly important.
Totally. Absolutely. So this is all like exciting and positive and like rah, rah, rah. But what do we have to be like wary of? Like, you mentioned the privacy component, like on device can actually support that in many ways. Like what else do we need to be just thinking about and really keeping top of mind as this positive momentum to move forward continues to accelerate?
One of the key things that we're very focused on at HP is safety and digital equity with folks. And when we think about the rate that technology is accelerating, doing so in a way that can be used safely, that doesn't get ahead of our skis, in terms of ensuring that there's privacy, ensuring that we are transparent in what's being done with people's data, and being really careful. And that a big part of what we do is not just AI PCs, but also we provide tools like our AI Studio and our workstations that help people create and tune their own AI. And one of the things that we're very quick to do as we're developing these tools is to integrate tools that integrate safety checks and make sure that the responses that you get when you craft and do your own tool isn't providing an aid to do dangerous things or leading workers or young people down a road that they shouldn't go down, or putting people in danger. That kind of safety has always been a first principle with HP and always will be. I think the other thing is, I think just aside from the safety and the nature, technology adoption is really hard. And we not only help our customers, but we help internal. And there's like a very simple human problem in that technology moves so fast and nobody wants to look foolish about not knowing how to use it.
Yeah.
And so even in HP, we roll out new tools and then say, well, the adoption's kind of slow because people don't want to ask the question of how do I use this or how do I take advantage of it?
Yeah.
And I think with the adoption of anything new, showing people upfront, like, here's how you take advantage of it and creating a safe space, right? Like a buddy to get that done completely changes the adoption scheme of how things happen. I think one of the things that we love about Virtual Sapiens, we were talking earlier, and often when I talk about your solutions and we show it to people, it's a sense of amazement of, wow, I didn't know you could do that. It's an amazing, I can't believe the richness of the feedback it's giving me. And then there's the nervousness of, I don't know if I want to be under that scrutiny, but it's safe because it's technology that's giving you the feedback. It enables you to get better in this safe space. I think it's such a wonderful example that we love to give customers about how to help their team step into the new world.
Totally. Yeah. It's the safe sandbox, the kind of approachable, non-judgmental element also is interesting. When we started Virtual Sapiens, it was a big question for us whether people would take the AI generated feedback seriously, right? Because as a human coach, part of me is like, no, it must be delivered by a human.
And how did you deal with that? Like, how did you adapt your design to build that sense of authenticity with it?
Yes. I mean, honestly, we still tweak the way the feedback is delivered, right? But it took the better part of 2 years to get the feedback component to a point where we hit this really nice balance between personalized, but not prescriptive, right? The difference is that people want feedback that's personal and unique to them, right? I don't want to get the same feedback that Alex is getting because we communicate differently. So we should get different feedback. But I don't want the AI to tell me exactly what I should be doing. I want the AI to say, hey, Rachel, put up that supercharged mirror. These are the behaviors you exhibited during that. Are you aware that you were touching your face? Are you aware that you were waving your hands around so aggressively that it was like really distracting, right? We highlight these behavioral blind spots to the user, and then we tell the user how that might impact their audience's perception of them, right? And that's all based on science. And then it's always up to the user to decide, oh, interesting. Okay, no, I didn't want to be distracting. I do want to be energized. I don't want to be distracting. I didn't want to come across as though I really didn't care with my face because I didn't express anything, right? And so then the user becomes involved in the behavior changes that they make, right? And then the AI tool comes back to reinforce the progress or reinforce the behavior change until the habit becomes rewired, right? But that was a really important part for us. And I think it helped the user trust the feedback the AI was providing them, right? Trust that there was accuracy there. And then also feel like the AI was there to help support their learning journey without, again, telling them. Nobody wants AI to tell you how you should feel or how you should behave, right?
That's right.
And so as because a coach's job, a human coach's job is also not to tell you what you should do and how you should act, right? It's always to tell you that these are the things that you're noticing and picking up on. Are those aligned with your intention? How might you think differently about this, given that your goal is X, right? Those are the types of questions a coach asks. So the AI has to do something similar.
And one of the things that I love about how you guys implemented it, I thought it was a brilliant choice, is when you get done with your call and you get your call report, it's not listed, oh, you had 5 face touches, you actually talk about the meaning of it. Like, this is the first impression you made, this is the authority you exhibited in a call. And I think that result oriented nature, like the getting to the conclusion, that's what really adds the value to it.
Yeah, totally. Like, why should someone care? Like, there's so much data and noise around us. The last thing we want to do is just like give you more noise, right? We have to kind of give you, like, help you understand the ways you're impacting your audience. Maybe you're aware of them, maybe you're not, but then like showing you why it matters so much.
Yeah. We're getting off a little bit off the beaten path, but I'll tell you about a little experience that I had this week. I'm in an innovation development course, which we do nonstop, here at HP. I have kept a journal that I have worked with every day for the last 4 years. And I never go to this journal and put in an entry when I'm having a great day. It's always the place I go when I'm working a problem, I'm having a frustration. For the first time, I loaded that journal into AI and had it do an analysis of me. And I thought, it was like, man, I don't even know why they, like, since this is the place that I go for my frustrations. But the insight I got was incredible.
Wow.
Absolutely incredible. And there's no denying it, because it's me, right? It's like my voice. But what was great about it was that it highlighted, first of all, it really highlighted my strengths, which I know are there, but it kind of like pointed out, like, you need to keep doing this, you're building on it. And for the things that I needed to work on, what was great is that it moved it from a place of, you did that, and you're going to do it tomorrow, to, hey, this is an area where you are saying that you want to develop it, and here's a strategy to get after and attack it. And I even then came back and asked it some questions to get out. And I just raised that, which is that to say that this data that you collect, all of that was done privately. It's not something that I loaded into the cloud. This is all stuff that I kept personally. And the end result of that is, it's not just AI for task generation or doing these little discrete things. I just got this tremendous coaching guide that took me it took me like years to gather the data. But in 5 minutes, I have probably one of the best development plans that I've ever had. Just absolutely tailored for myself. And I would recommend everybody do that. It's so powerful. It's like, now I will journal twice as much, knowing the benefit that I'm going to get out of it.
Yeah. Oh, that's so interesting. I never thought of that, because journals are so tricky because they just pile up.
Yes, that's true, right?
You know what to do with them.
You never go back and really like revisit it, or it's hard to synthesize it. But now you've got a tool that can like pull it together. All the way through.
Amazing. That's a nice segue into our final question, because it's kind of more on that like team dynamic leader kind of self-management perspective. But I know that you're known as a leader who builds best-in-class teams, right? Highly functioning teams, great culture. Like, how do you do this?
How do you do this? Well, for us, we are very mission driven. We're very purpose driven, not task driven. And we do the hard things on our team, right? We're not trying to figure out what the future is going to be. We're really diving in deep to understand people and how they work, and understand how we can remove the friction and how they can get better. And so the art of the deal for us is, how do we empower every person on our team to have the tools, to be clear on the purpose, and also have the liberty and the mission to move forward and do what they need to do. To actually create innovation. I tell you, as a product manager, you might think that the cherry is getting a product reward or doing the launch. And having done this for 20 years, it's not. The moment that is glorious is when you have the insight that makes the whole world look different in a way that you've never seen before. And you get that inspiration, then the product design, everything flows out of that. So for us, it's really about, how do we create the ability for people to get that insight, to have that vision. And also, even to step back in our meetings and conversations. Again, another reason I love Virtual Sapiens, but not just to have the conversation, but to step back and to say, okay, what's happening here in the room? What are the dynamics of the conversation that's going on? Are we converging? Are we diverging? Who's engaged? Who's not engaged?
Yeah.
Are we getting towards our objective? Is everybody able to contribute? And thinking about the dynamics of how we work, not just the work itself, that is incredibly empowering for teams. I think that's something that's a lifelong journey that we all need to work on.
Right. Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing it in that way. You know, I think there's a lot to be said for, like not like being able to take a step back from those deliverables, right? Like there's such a focus, understandably, on like, what are the OKRs? Like, what are the goals, deliverables? Like, how are you going to get there? Why aren't you there yet? And so I've always had a problem with that, like just personally, like super hyper goal oriented things, because then you do lose sight a little bit of the value of the journey itself. And I think, to your point, you know, it's nice to be able to like understand when the insight was made, or what it felt like and what the insight was, and you know,
and asking the question of always asking why, and does it matter? Like the crap that I see, why we all fall into is, oh, we need an insight, so let's find a statistic and throw it on the page, and then we'll get to where we want to be. And it's like, no, let's like really get into it. Let's like understand the pain and the emotion. And again, I'll bring it back to where we started, which is the word that we use here. The words that we use very frequently every day is about growth and fulfillment. And how do we help people feel better about the work that they do? How do we help people feel like they're better today than they were yesterday? It's not just about getting the job done faster. It's about helping you be who you want to become. And we all get satisfaction from delivering to that mission.
Yeah, that's awesome. A real testament, you know, to everything that you're doing on the day-to-day at HP with your teams. Thank you so much, Alex, for joining us and for really diving into the conversation. So many fascinating takeaways for our audience. Where can people get in touch with you or follow more of your work?
I should probably do better at my social media, but you can find me at Alex Thatcher on X, and I'm easy to find, but always happy to have the conversation about innovation.
Awesome. Great. Well, thank you again. And to our audience, as always, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Take care, Rachel. Always a pleasure.
All right.